you very much for having me here today. They did ask me to come and talk about the old new problem, the sandwich generation, right? That's been around since I've been a kid. I remember, how many people here remember grandma living with you? Or, yeah, how many people I had? I always tease because I grew up in a very large family. We had 9 kids in our family, and I always tease and say, 9 kids wasn't enough, and Mom and Dad, we had to throw Aunt Rita in, and Grandma came and lived with us, and the more the better, the more the merrier. And but I have to be honest with you, I'll probably come back to that illustration. There's 3 handouts, a couple ways, and you know, I remember as a young kid. There you go, 3 handouts. I remember as a young kid asking myself, now wait a minute, there's 9 kids and 2 adults and Aunt Rita and Grandma all living with us in this little tiny house. How come Grandma and Aunt Rita want to come live with us? There's no room in this house. And I think you all know, being in the caregiving industry, that some houses are a little bit, you know, nicer, a little bit easier, a little bit more caretaking spirit going on than other houses. And so I think I learned a real strong lesson from my parents, especially my mother early on, just responding and taking, you know, jumping in, taking care. I remember 20 years ago being a counselor, and I talked to a couple who were coming in for, I think they were coming in for grief because his mother just passed. And he told me that his mother lived with them for however many years, and that they took care of her while they were raising their kids. In the last like 5 years of the decline of her life, and 20 years younger, I remember my response was just, wow, that's a lot of work. You were really, that was a lot you took on. You were really overwhelmed. And he shot back really fast. He said, that was a blessing. That was a blessing. And it really took me back as a young kid at the time, thinking, wow. And I think I kind of felt like I knew what he meant, but I think it wasn't until years later I really came into my own experiences and really got what he meant. And it's closely connected to a saying, and some of you may have heard the saying before, but the saying is, I would never have chosen to go through that experience. But after having gone through it, I realized I never would have learned and gained the blessings that I got from going through something as difficult like that. And so I think that saying was very close to his, you know, response to me, which is, that was a blessing. And so again, how many people here are in the middle of like the sandwich generation right now? Caring for their parents. The parents don't have to be in the room, in their house. They're just going and doing things for your parents, because I think, yeah, that has quite a bell curve to it. Because it starts with, you know, honey, it'd be a little bit easier for me if you just stopped got these groceries for me, you know, and then it just kind of goes over the years to where, the best example I have is my mother. I checked in on her, did things for her. A lot of it did in the family, and then she at one point had open heart surgery, and then she couldn't cook for herself, so then we all rotated cooking for her, and then she got back to cooking again. So then we'd come and we'd have a free dinner, and her cooking was a lot better than ours, you know. And so that, but then we hit the top of the bell curve and went back, and then just kind of declined from there. And we all worked hard to let her do whatever she could at dinner time, and just to do the rest ourselves. And she's cooking until near the end, which was great at 86. But I think the sandwich generation includes all of us. I think with the baby boomers, you know, that, you know, the sandwich generation is going to become, I think it was a good topic to pick because it's going to become more and more prevalent. And on that bell curve, you know, some people talk about being full-time at work and just being hit by the parent that is, you know, on downhill or is failing in their health, and all of a sudden they have to move in and have to go part-time or whatever. That happens that way, but I think more times than not, it's on that curve, where you just start with some things you're helping them with, and then it just, as they decline, your responsibilities increase. And so, given the handouts, I just want to go through them real quick with you. There's 3 of them, and they're all chosen very, very distinctly. One is chosen and is called, the first one is called Sandwich Generation Survived the Midlife Tug of War, the websites, books, and people. Because I want to come to you and tell you that we're here for you, and we help many people in the sandwich generation for their own mental health, just for a place to come and go, you know, and then leave and say thank you for the relationship strain it has created in their own relationships, maybe in the marriage, maybe in a parent-child relationship. I have seen where sometimes, you know, everybody's kind of hanging in there doing the best they can, but somebody in grade school is acting out, and that's just the barometer that everybody is just to the tilt with their stress. So bring in your kid, bring in whatever relationship, but you can call us, as I was telling Jamie, you can call us for so many different reasons and so many different resources. All the different resources, as you well know at the VNA, that adult people, that, you know, aging people need, you can call us and ask us to assist you and your elderly parent. And your elderly parent doesn't have to be in this community. They can be anywhere throughout the country, okay? Just like, I think I've told you before, but I'll remind you, if you have kids that go off to school, and if they have problems, you can call us and we can help with that as well. So it kind of extends beyond just where you live, okay? So what I have found are a couple of variables that are very common in sandwich generation. We, the ones that are in the middle, sometimes are the only ones looking ahead. Does that make sense? You know, because we have a generation above us that doesn't want to look ahead because they don't want to fail in their health, right? And then we have the younger generation that doesn't know how to look ahead, right? Everything's just about now. So you look up and you're just like, anybody else see what's coming besides me? No. You're the only one. And that's why sometimes you feel like you're pushing against great resistance, because you really are the voice of what's to come. And the key really is having conversations as early as you can. So I remember a car full of my sisters and I, we're all in a van. We're driving to my aunt's funeral. It's my mother's older sister. And so we're on our way down there, and my oldest sister says, so Mom, and she was pretty healthy at this point, so Mom, when you pass, you know, if your health is failing at the end and you have to put on lights, you know, that old question, what do you want? And you know, she kind of was taken back and she thought about it. Everybody was like, whoa, can't believe she asked, you know. And so, but it was great that she asked that so early when she was so healthy. And she gave her answer, and then of course, anybody here in a large family? Anybody all? In a large family, things aren't serious very long. You know, it's not very long before it turns to the funny. You know, so of course, then my sister Margie next to me says, because Mom, if you want, I can just put a pillow over you. You know, we can end it with, you know, we're all aghast, but then we're all laughing, you know, because she is broken through the stress. So again, if you're in the sandwich generation, or if you're just about to be in the sandwich generation, or if you ever will, if you're listening like I was to that one man, who I thought, wow, I wonder what all he means. I think that all of us will be there, even if it's not us immediately. Our spouse, our friends, our neighbors, you know, you are the only one looking ahead. And do with it the best you can is gingerly bring up all the healthcare directives, just bring up everything you can so that you're never caught in that situation where a lot needs to be decided and you have no power or anything. So I encourage you to be okay with looking ahead and bringing up what needs to be done. And again, these are all in your handouts. What I have also found, and I'll talk from personal experience as far as what I've seen, you know, in the counseling room and what I've learned from people over the years, and that is there anyone else that can help? Anybody ever thought that in their family? Is there anybody else here that can help? Anybody else see the issue? I remember when my father was still alive, and he started to his dementia. He started into his Alzheimer's, and my oldest sister says, "Well, I know we can do that. We can put a note by the phone. If Dad can't remember, I'm like." A note by the phone is going to help Dad remember? It's not going to help him remember. So it's like being as gingerly and asking people for what they need to do, because sometimes they don't know what they need to do. You know, I know towards the end of my mother's life, I had one sister who was kind of hanging out there, and she always kind of does that, kind of hangs out, and she'll find her time that she'll help out, but many times she's the younger ones, all the other, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, you guys all do what you know, tell me what you need from me. So we need to go to her and tell her what we need from her. Otherwise, she won't step in because she's younger and we're always out there trying to control everything. And I think it just kind of is too much for her. So it's critical that you do ask for help. And how many people here are good at asking for help? Raise your hand. Yeah, I got a couple hands. Good. I've learned to be better over the years. I learned to be better through my mother's decline. You know, it started with, you know, my husband and I moved them across the street when my father passed, and then my mother was by herself, and then she declined. So then, you know, I'd go across the street, and like I said, the bell curve, you know. run errands for her, sometimes drive her places, sometimes. It just kind of increased. And then it got to a point where it's like, I don't think she can stay by herself. I think we need to either bring in help and we couldn't talk her into bringing in help. So what I did was I asked a sister, I said, and this was tough. I went to her and I said, I'm thinking I'm going to start spending the night. Leave my house and go spend the night there and then go back. And so I said, can you do that? Can you take 2 days? I'll take 5 days, you take 2 days. And so she left the family 2 days, 2 nights a week, went and cooked, all that. And then we got farther down the road, and I'm pretty overwhelmed, And so then I go to my brother and I say, if you could take Friday nights, if I had Friday nights off, that would be great. And so he took a deep sigh and he said, I'll do that for you if that's what you want, And so I had to have those moments where I couldn't stay in my own perspective and get upset with people who weren't coming forward. I had to go and I had to ask them. And I had to find a way to ask them. Now, sometimes you have a lot of people in your family who will respond when you ask them, but you have to ask. But sometimes people come to me and they say, I don't have that family. They either don't have the family or they're not going to help. I've already asked them, they never help when I ask them. And that's why I gave that handout with all the resources. And that's when, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're feeling overwhelmed and the bell curve is starting to get kind of high with activities, or your parents move into you, give us a call, because you should never stay there overwhelmed. We're plugged into a lot of resources for you, okay? Just any questions about that, or any questions or anything, just about dealing with parents, or... Okay. Very good, very good. There's also an organization, and when the Wellness Committee first asked me to come speak, I think it was a couple months ago, and I was going to bring someone from Care Consultants for the Aging. You guys have heard of them, right? Okay. And I think they have a whole book of resources. If you'd like, I think I'm going to go get an updated one if you don't already have it, and just give it to Barb, so that you have, a tremendous resource of both Omaha and Lincoln, to tap into when you need things for your parents. And that's everything from how to select and what are all the different assisted care, the communities, the nursing home, to just what if they need help with shopping. And I know the VNA is in that book, aren't you? Okay, so the next one is taking care of yourself. What I had to do when I went through that time, and after my mother passed, I told people, I run an organization, and it takes many hours for me to run Arbor. It takes many hours. And I was taking care of her. And so you can imagine the hours that was taking in my week. And I tell people, I run an organization, and I feel like I'm retired. I feel like I just retired when she passed. And they were like, they didn't get it. But do you guys understand where I'm coming from? Mm-hmm. That's how much time it takes if you go in or if they live with you. And I think you have to prepare yourself for that. And here are some ways of helping. One was, I had to look at what was draining my energy during that time, and I had to limit that. So I pretty much didn't drink coffee during that time. Because as I've gotten older, my tolerance for coffee and alcohol has just gone down to the ground. So I just eliminated coffee, and I couldn't drink enough water, okay? And so I think I was listening to a presidential campaign, and one of the presidents was being interviewed. I can't remember which campaign it was. And they said, how do you do this schedule? And you barely sleep. You get towards the end here. It looks like you might win. You're probably getting 4 hours of sleep a night. And he said, what is making a difference? And he said one thing is, no coffee, no pop. I just went to all water, and I drink tons of it. And so I think that's really, underrated, drinking water. And the other was, I remember a statement that someone once made to me about sleep. And she said, if I don't get 8 hours, I'm not good. Now, how many people here get 8 hours of sleep a night? Okay. How many people get 7 hours of sleep a night? How many people get 6 hours? And how many people get less than 6 hours? There's a good number. So there's a lot of things that are outside of our control that interferes with that sleep. There's a lot of things. Crying baby, a kid who's sick, things that have to get done. If you don't get it done, then the family's not going to function. But I think that there are other things that rob your sleep. TV, the internet, sugar. Different things will rob you of your sleep. And if you become insistent insistent on getting as much sleep as possible, you will notice a difference in your lives. Water, become insistent on your sleep, and breathing. Those three things I couldn't take for granted when I was going through that time, and I was spending all those hours, okay? Those three things became commodities. Does that make sense? Being able to breathe well, being able to get good breath, get aerobic breath, not that shallow, busy breath that we all have, but really deep breath. Get as good a night's sleep as I can, and to keep my energy, really well, and to drink lots of water. Those things are kind of just a part of our life now. We kind of try to be healthy. The Wellness Committee encourages it, but they became commodities during that time. And me treating them like commodities, I think, made a difference in my mental health and my ability to deal with everything. And I bring that up because I think that my clients, the people I've worked with, tell me the same thing. That you take simple things and you treat them like they're critical things, and they'll come back to give you a lot of help. So to be mindful of the drain is a very physical thing, isn't it? But it's a mental thing too. Remember when I said how many people here are good at asking for help? I found that if I didn't ask for help, I was going to get overwhelmed, and it was going to affect everything. And so the mental or emotional things that can drain you are the above. Not being able to ask for help, trying to control, get everything done, trying to have everything right. That went out the window, and feeling guilty, like, oh, I shouldn't. Or maybe I should spend this time. Maybe I shouldn't ask somebody else. Guilt is a tremendous drainer of your emotional health. And then the last one, and I think there are two things combined. I have family members come in and talk to me a lot. And they talk about this dynamic of the sandwich generation, who's helping and who's not helping. And what emotion do you think is way up there, real high, with this whole who's helping, who's not helping, and feeling overwhelmed? What emotion would you guess? Resentment. Anger and resentment. And then, as it goes on over time, and maybe even after the death, is some unforgiveness. And I think those three things, that anger, resentment, and unforgiveness, will zap your energy faster than you think. Because it takes a lot of energy to get angry at somebody, doesn't it? Well, we got plenty of reasons. But it takes a lot of energy to stay angry at somebody. And so I found that some people helped better than others during that time in my family, and I found that it wasn't a factor, it wasn't worth it to make things fair, let them know. It just wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth do what needs to be done, ask for the help I need, and take care of myself. That was what's most important. And I find that my clients are telling me the same. And as far as both ends, not just the elderly parent, but the children as well, there's been a number of times I've told anywhere from preteen all the way up to late teens. I've told them the same thing, and they're all very shocked when I tell them this. And that is, you can cook dinner for the family. You can cook the family meal. Doesn't have to be mom standards or dad, whoever's a good cook in the family. Doesn't have to be. So they look at me and they say, I can't cook anything. And I said, you can prepare the family dinner. And so can you guess what meal I have them prepare for dinner? You better guess? TV dinners, macaroni and cheese, all good guesses.
Breakfast?
Peanut butter and jelly. Peanut butter and jelly and carrot sticks. Who can't make that, right? But there's this sense of guilt that maybe the parents have or the mom has of I've got to prepare the meals and spend this time with my parents over here, and I've got to do my part over here and keep this up. No, you're teaching that kid more by them preparing a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and carrot sticks. They know how to make it because you made it for them many times over the years. So what happens to the kid when I say that to him? You can prepare the dinner. You can prepare the family meal. And now go home and announce to your parents that you're going to prepare a Thursday night dinner, and this is what's on the menu. And you know what the kid says to me every time? Wow, I can do that? And so the goal is to honor the older, the elders' independence, and to encourage the younger's independence. Encourage it. Nobody's going to die in that family because of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. None of the neighbors are going to go, what? Did you hear the Jones had peanut butter and jelly for dinner last night? Nobody's going to care for it. I think that empowering the kids and empowering the parent takes a tremendous amount of pressure off of you in the middle. And the goal is to take the pressure off of you. That's the goal, not to take it on. That sometimes the most caring thing you can do is to empower that kid. Or say, hey, can you go and cook with grandma? Can you go and spend that time? Or can you run that errand? That makes sense? And so, and we had a lot of these nephews that kicked in and spent a night with grandma and helped grandma cook the dinner that night. So I think that, you know, with independence, the elderly person in the family is just hanging on to it as tight as they can. And I remember at one time encouraging my mother to go into assisted living, and we went and had a birthday party there for somebody, and every single person at the table that lived there said, if I could still be at home, I would. And so she went home and said, see? See what I'm saying? You know, so then we encouraged her to stay at home, but my sister has the best story about that hanging on to independence that we all do. And it was when she was that age, and you all know this very well, she was that age where she needed to use a walker, but she wouldn't touch a walker. You guys know what I'm talking about? You guys deal with this every day, don't you? You know, encouraging somebody to be safe, encouraging somebody to use the means and the equipment that you went out of your way to help them get. And so my sister, my mother was sitting on the couch, my sister says, Mom, please, why won't you use the walker? And she responded with a statement that helps me know why she lasted, why she lived longer than all her siblings, why she lived longer than both of her parents. Because she looked up at her and she said, because I'm going to fight it every step of the way. I'm going to keep my strength as long as I can and use my real strength as long as I can. And I think that's that independent attitude that does keep them alive longer. But I think 86 is not necessarily that old anymore, is it? No, we're going to be looking at 90, 90s. We're going to go forward with, you know, more 100 plus people than ever before. And some of them are going to be you guys. Some of them are going to be the people in this room. And so, you know, I think that as the baby boomers get older, I think the resources are at every age level are defined by the boomer generation. And so they'll continue to be refined in the elder years by the baby boomer generation. But I encourage you now, I'm 52, but I encourage you now to look forward and say, what do I need to decide now that they don't have to deal with down the road? And look that far forward for yourself, okay? I have a friend, and she said, I think that my husband and I, we're both going to plan our whole funeral out, and we're going to put together a slideshow. I said, okay, there you go. You should do that. I've known of other people who have done that. And I said, the last picture of the slideshow should be you guys waving. And she's like, yeah, I could do that. So those are just the points I wanted to encourage with you today, along with these handouts with a tremendous amount of resources. But the biggest thing is I really wanted to reinforce that the EAP is here for you 24 hours a day. And if you run into any of these issues of your own elderly parents, or just of yourself, or with your kids, or especially if it's all the above, please give us a call. How many people remember how many free sessions you get? 3. Okay, 3 free sessions per person, per problem, per year. So that's pretty open. Okay? So we encourage you to call us when you need.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.